Our goal is to get folks unstuck, to keep them organized, to accelerate their process, but also to shift that process around so that authors can spend more time in the parts of the creative process that they enjoy.
Welcome back to Built for Authors on State of the Nation, Author Nation's podcast. Today we have Michael Stewart from Sudowrite. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Joe?
Good, good. We're this is being recorded. We're about 35 days out from the show. So on one hand, we're frantic, and other hands we're kind of doing, like it's business as usual. It's kind of weird space, right? Because like we got lots of things to check and do and make sure that everyone's on the right list, but like the team's got it figured out. Like we're gonna have
Yeah.
another great show. So
Yeah, I'm somewhat intimidated by my checklist, but then I remember what your checklist must look like right now, 1 month out.
yeah, what's hard for me is, and I wouldn't say hard, but it's like a weird place to be. Is like I go from thinking about something that's going to happen in 30 days to thinking about something that's going to happen a year from now. Like I
Yeah,
have to, I'm like back and
that's a
forth.
fast switch. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But it's good. It's fun. It's what we signed up for, so we're excited. But today we're here to talk about Sudowrite and how our community can learn a little bit more about your product and how it helps authors to do what they're trying to do. So why don't you just tell us a little about you and Sudowrite for those that don't know what you're up to, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Sure. So I'm Michael. Thanks again for the intro. I lead the community over at Sudowrite. So Sudowrite is an AI assistant for authors. Our goal is to get folks unstuck, to keep them organized, to accelerate their process, but also to shift that process around so that authors can spend more time in the parts of the creative process that they enjoy and less time dedicated to the busy work and the tedium of that process. My work here at Sudowrite is very focused on sort of like these three pillars, where we have a big support team that's helping out our community, but we also have engagement initiatives where we do stuff with our Discord. We have a Discord server of 15,000 authors, AI-friendly folks that are in there. So we do stuff with that community. We do stuff out in the world in real life, going to events like Author Nation. And then the final thing is we have a curriculum over here where we do free daily live classes that range from pretty practical primers on how to use Sudowrite and more advanced sort of workflows, but also just craft. We do sessions that are very craft focused, genre specific sessions and things like that. So my work is very varied. The team's work is very focused on building the best tool in the space for writers. So.
Well, before we kind of dive into some of our other questions, why don't we kind of double click on that? Like,
Mhm.
I remember seeing Sudowrite in some of its earliest forms, and it was pretty impressive. And like back in those days, because AI was new, like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like you could, and that seems probably in your world like 10 years ago. Like,
Yeah. 10,
um,
20. Yeah.
yeah, but it was only like maybe at the most three. But like, can you kind of um, give a time, how your philosophy, because you kind of touched on it a little bit. It
Yeah.
isn't just like a writing tool. It's like you're now that you're enmeshed in the author community, seeing how the development of AI's capabilities and
Hmm.
your software, how that all comes into some space where, it's not just about writing, it's about other things. So like kind of jump off from that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So I will say that Sudowrite started from a problem that our founders had. So both of our founders, Amit and James, were prior founders. They had companies, and after wrapping up and selling those companies, they were taking time to write. They did what we all want to do. They were retired. They were writing, and they met one another in a writing group called Sudowrite. So that's where the name came from. They met in
Ah,
a sci-fi writing group. Um, uh, while there, OpenAI, this is we have the the street cred of sort of predating ChatGPT, right? However, OpenAI had been around for years. It was doing its thing, and there was a neat AI model called Da Vinci. I don't know if anybody has ever experimented with that. It predates the GPT three model, and with Da Vinci, with in 2020 when GPT-3 dropped, these were tech nerds who were like, "Boy, this is really cool. I wonder if this could help
Mm.
with my own process, with my writing." And so they built a little tool and experimented with that and shared it. And pretty much right off the bat, they were like, "This is cool. The only way that authors can actually interface with this thing, with with creative individuals at large can interface with this thing is if it's built in a way that is accessible and approachable and built with authors in mind." And so the sort of original guiding philosophy was, hey, there's a high barrier to entry to use technology that could have very high utility to authors. And I'll say the original problem that maybe they were thinking about was like writer's block, right? Like,
Hmm.
how do I get unstuck? How do I just keep up momentum? How do I get through this moment? And they found that these early AI models were pretty capable. When you take something and turn it or show you a version, even showing you something bad is a way to get unstuck, right? If
Hmm.
you had a friend who came in and told you what was supposed to happen next in your story, you'd reject that, but it might spark something for you
Right.
where you would know a direction to take it.
That's a dumb idea, but
Yeah, that's no, absolutely never. And so I love that's actually the relationship. I have a very antagonistic relationship with my own AIs. However, uh, uh, so that was the sort of philosophy. The team took that, built this sort of MVP, and then eventually launched it in 2021. So Sudowrite launched officially in 2021, and then it was not until, gosh, was it December of 2022 that ChatGPT launched? It was over a full year later. ChatGPT
Mm.
launched, and while there was a lot of existential dread on the team, thinking, "Oh no, we're going to be replaced by this thing," that was actually a huge moment because
Huh.
folks
That I didn't even think about that. Like, oh my God, they're just going to do it in the chat.
yeah, there was fear internally. However, it turned out that the sort of elevating the profile of the idea that this tool could help writers made folks look for something that's actually built for writers. So it was a huge discovery moment, and we saw, a huge influx of authors and fiction authors, and we learned even more about the problems that fiction authors have. The more people that join Sudowrite, the more conversations we have, the more people in our Discord, the more we're learning, and the better we're able to sort of develop a roadmap that is actually supportive of what authors need.
Mm. Cool. So where do you see authors really kind of wasting their time and where Sudowrite can kind of help reduce that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, the other biggest moment, I think, for Sudowrite in the past um, came from this sort of thing that we were trying to address. So, we built a tool. It was originally called Story Engine, and the idea was to help you go quickly from the seed of an idea, from what we call the brain dump, this sort of seed of an idea,
Hmm.
to a sort of like full-fledged novel. And so Story Engine launched. It was during the contentious days of AI. I feel
Hmm.
like we've moved a little bit beyond that at this point. And so that was a big moment. And the goal of that was to sort of like help you prove something out, right? And so this initial sort of like, what would this actually look like in practice? Maybe I can get a quick preview of what my chapter one would look like. So
Hmm.
that was one pain point. The thing is, when we rebranded it and invested in that, we called it Story Bible rather than Story Engine, because while it can still do that, the intent of this is like keeping folks organized. We know that like people wrestle with organization, and also this sort of logic that's required to effectively build and manage. And I was talking to somebody at Nink about this, and authors truly wind up, especially like independent authors, wind up in this sort of full stack role. Like a full
Mm,
stack is, I'm stealing from the software industry here, but the idea is like you have to do everything. You have to do, and this includes things outside of the core discipline of the creative role, which is like, okay, I want to be a writer, and so I want to write. However, you also need to do the marketing and the sales, and you need to do all of that. And also, you, by the way, did I mention you're an administrator now, and you need to do
yeah.
managerial tasks, and you need to keep track of everything. Um, and so that's some overhead. All of those are actually some overhead that we want to sort of just help with. We want to
Mhm.
help keep you in that sort of creative flow, creative process. And so, Story Bible is one way of doing that, right? If you have 100 characters, we can help you keep track of 100 characters. That's, that's what we're here for. And previously, it was the case that maybe you had to write down those 100 characters and set those up. And now we have AI and we can help you with that. And so, a big launch for us, this was actually at Author Nation last year, we launched our series functionality.
Mm,
And our import novel functionality. And we've only improved those over the past year. And so now you can throw in, a work in progress or a finished book. Sudowrite's going to read the whole thing, create a detailed series, story Bible or series Bible for you, depending on what you need. And it does a really good job of sort of tracking those elements for you so that you don't, you're freed up. You can just
mm.
write, you can just stay in the flow.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, I think that you know, my observation is that we're kind of through that first shock phase where people are, and I don't think it's just the users, it's the developers too, are starting to see like, oh my gosh, while it is helpful in that unblocking and getting you unstuck,
Yeah.
um, the joy of writing can be where it really can improve the joy of writing is taking care of all the stuff that distracts you from the joy of writing, right?
Yeah, exactly.
um and I don't I think about these things a lot. I don't think people understand that like it's just a tool, and a tool in the hands of a capable person, it is where craft happens, right? So like
Yeah.
the analogy I always use is like, if I bought a $600 tennis racket, it would do nothing for my game,
Yeah.
right? A $600 specialized tennis racket in the hands of a professional tennis player will make the ball spin the right way and do things that I don't even know. I'm lucky I can just get it to the other side of the court, let alone, right? So I think that's the other thing with AI is that um, we were all getting past this idea of what necessarily was like, oh, there's going to be more content out there. That problem already exists.
Yeah.
That's not an AI issue. Just in the time I've been in this industry, we've gone from 4 million titles to 40 million titles
Yeah.
on Amazon. And here's the newsflash, gang. The market is super efficient at sorting through those.
Yeah.
It's it,
Yeah.
it and that has nothing to do with AI or not. But where I'm excited is to see where companies like yours are taking this, because it's about not just like right now you're at this point where it's like, oh, it's about series Bible and this and that. But when that corpus of work gets captured, there's going to be so many more opportunities around things like estate management,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And other things that like from a business perspective and creating value from your intellectual property, right? Um, it's going to be possible because of this tool, right? For the example, what I'm talking about there is like if you're an author that's been successful and you're incapacitated and can't write,
Yeah.
your estate can continue to produce works based on if you've built this tool out the right way, right? So it can
Yeah.
continue to leverage your intellectual property for generations, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
I think, yeah, our series. So this was what I actually demoed recently. I was out at Nink and I demoed that series, and I think that there's some really exciting potential there already with like where we can take that. But this sort of like core value of like, hey, bring in three finished books and you have such an advantage at writing that next one. There's so much pre-work that's already done for you. Um, you already have established all your characters, all your settings, all of these sort of like
Mm,
key moments in the canon, and you have outlines from prior books, which just makes setting up that sequel like effortless. And but its effortless setup still requires you with the vision and the execution, right? And so
yeah.
that's still in your hands. You're still the author, you're still driving, and you're going to get the best results if you're willing to be in there and get your hands dirty and iterate. And for most people, for most authors, what we're hearing is like, well, that's what I like. That's what I like doing is like actually doing the storytelling, the craft part of this.
Yeah. I think that's the part that I know we at Author Nation are very focused on is, and not just around, tools like this, but where we're seeing things go with automations and agents. And it's like all those things that you talked about, that full stack, a
Hmm.
lot of that stuff in the future is not going to be yours to have. Let's be honest, since it's just us here, like
Yeah.
they're not doing this stuff anyhow. They're not like they're a lot of the stuff that should be done to run a proper publishing business is just ignored, right?
Yes.
Especially on the business side and marketing. And so when that stuff can be set up and automated in a way that's really done the right way, they'll see that leverage the business, and you have more space, right? It's just like
Yeah.
getting those crazy ideas into your notebook or into Sudowrite so that you can then go do your work,
Yes.
frees you up, right? And I
Yeah.
think that the fact that you're not running your business the right way subconsciously takes up a lot of space for anybody that's running their own business. Like,
Yeah.
what am I missing?
Way back. I'm trying to think. What is this? This is about 2 years ago. We sort of took Sudowrite apart to because we were thinking about this. We're thinking about this creative life cycle and these parts of the process that we support. And I will say, even today, we support this pretty finite part of the cycle from ideation and brainstorming and this like the earliest part up to maybe first second draft. You're sort of like in this formatting stage, and we know we can do better, and we also know that even for that part we can do tools that better support people through that process. And so we launched something called we call them plugins, but if you've ever used a web browser where you install
Mm-hmm.
extensions, they ad blocker, etc., they're like that for Sudowrite. And so, for one of the first things that I wound up building with that is I'm like, wow, there's this whole part of this creative life cycle we're ignoring, and we can better support this author who's doing this full stack thing, a query letter generator. Query
Mm-hmm.
letters are something that are like fairly formulaic. There's like it's not actually a part of that core creative process. It's this sort of like necessary thing, whether you're querying a manager or an agent or
Yeah.
a publishing house, right? And so the um, the goal was like, okay, this is like value that we can provide, and the brilliant thing is like we have this whole story here, and so it can be nearly a one-click thing where the author can get a first draft of this, punch it up, and be out the door. Um, so tools like that and the sort of extensibility of Sudowrite is something that we think a lot about. And we've made a lot of cool, exciting progress on that I'm excited to showcase at Author Nation as well.
Cool. Cool. Well, so what's a kind of simple mind shift things that you see authors could make that would, open them up to more opportunity with these tools?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, so if I were to take this from a values perspective, like we think a lot about like in our Discord server, for example, all these authors like what's an important value that we can codify here for these folks? And one of the top ones that we list is curiosity, where I think that uh, a lot of the, even going back 2 years, a lot of the sort of reaction to AI tools was a fear-based reaction, which is very reasonable, especially where your livelihood is concerned, where your intellectual property is concerned, and so there's a lot of fear. And I think that curiosity. even if this is not a tool that you want to embrace, pursuing an understanding of it puts you in a better position in the market where it's like, oh, I understand, I hear my peers talking about this thing. I understand how they're publishing this many books a year, whereas like I'm only publishing so many. I think that it will help you build confidence and maybe maybe you wind up at a point where you want to be experimenting with these tools. I'm obviously biased. I've spent 15 years in tech in general, previously at Kickstarter, now at Sudowrite, and I think that these emerging tools are like so exciting, and the best thing you can do. That you will be at an advantage if you're willing to be curious and ask questions of these things, talk to people that use these things, and investigate and probe whether they could support your process.
Yeah.
I don't think, I would never say anybody should go out and flex their workflow or their process to fit a certain tool just because it has some percent chance of improving things for them. I think ultimately it has to be a natural fit, and you're going to get the most out of it if you're asking questions.
Hmm. Well, what you made me think about when you said that is probably a mistake that a lot of folks are making is they don't have a full understanding of what their process is, right? To
Yeah.
say, like, to be able to say, hey, this is what I think is going to bring me joy in this,
Yeah.
and then step into it and see, does it, you know, is it additive or deductive to that, right? It's
Yeah.
more people are just like, hey, everyone's doing this. I think this is what's going to get me the book that makes me money.
Yeah.
Well, no.
The a good yeah, I guess using that lens, think about your workflow, your sort of process from a Marie Kondo perspective.
Yeah.
Which parts of that do not spark joy? Is it, for example, when you've written a chapter and you realize this character needs to be replaced with a different character, and you need to make he a she. And so you need to now go through and change all of these pronouns and any nicknames and things like that's a tedious it's not super gratifying to do this edit, right? To just make that change. And so if that's something that does not spark joy, is there a tool that can do this for me? I think it's things like that. It's identifying and there's, different parts of this process that could fit in there. I hear people say like, "Oh, the edit is a miserable part. I hate going through the edit. I wish something could just do the edit for me." And so, yeah, I think for me, it's probing yourself, your own process. What does not spark joy? What could any tool help with, AI or otherwise?
Yeah, I think that getting back to my analogy about this being, a tool in the hands of like there's kind of two parts to it is what you want it to do and then how you learn to use it in the right ways
Yeah.
because just you know picking up a $600 Big Bertha driver doesn't make you hit the ball
Yeah.
straight, right? Like
Yeah.
there, and I think that's the other part of this is that um, can this open up that space where you can find that balance between being as creative as you possibly can be and hate to break it to you guys, deliver a product people find worthy of giving you money for, right? Like
Yeah.
if the in the end you're trying to make a commercial book, fiction or nonfiction, that there has to be that part figured out.
Yes. Yeah. Uh, I guess to extend your analogy, if I'm a hobby photographer, I like taking photos. I have a
Mhm.
very big camera roll. But if you threw Photoshop in front of me, I don't know how to, wouldn't know where to get started, right? There's a lot of buttons, there's a lot of dials. And like candidly, that's feedback that we've received about Sudowrite, that it's complex, right? When you first get thrown into this, that it can be overwhelming. And I think that we're constantly balancing this idea of making it as powerful as possible, while keeping it accessible and approachable. We want authors to be able, what we ask of authors is to be opinionated about what they want out of this thing. If you come into Sudowrite with a goal, and whether that goal is like, I want to write the next book in my series, or I want to, I want to be on a regular schedule where I write 6 books a year, and every 2 months I have a book on the market. Um, you're going to be best served by not just the tools, but all of the other resources like our live classes and things like that, if you have that goal in mind. And so I think that that also helps sort of demystify the product. We also try and, at the same time, we want to continue to make it better and richer and
Mm,
more feature complete while balancing this feedback that, like, hey, I'm a little bit overwhelmed. And so we sort of start from this place of like, this should be familiar when you get in there, like Google Docs, and then it can do way more ultimately. But yeah, we're in that position, that
yeah,
tough
I
position.
think
Yeah.
that's with anything like this, there's always going to be that tough balance, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so, can you, I know you were just at Nink. You probably have had some feedback from folks there. Can you kind of share some either stories that people told you about using the product, or maybe some success story that you can comes to your mind that you think is really would resonate with the audience that's contemplating the use of this product? And
Yeah. Um, yes. So I will say one of the most satisfying moments at this past Nink was being approached by someone who came up to me and said, "You converted me, Lash. You turned me, you set me up with a trial. You set me up on Sudowrite and I love it. I've been using it ever since. So this was like that's a very satisfying thing personally because that's the work that we're doing. The work that we're doing
yeah.
is trying to resource authors, accelerate their process, and so that was definitely one. This was somebody who then felt like I had a cheerleader in the audience. It was great. I also got back channeled some information. Somebody approached me and they were like, I just want you to know, a friend of mine is giving Sudowrite walkthroughs in her hotel room. She has an HDMI cable and she plugged it into the screen and she's pulling us all to in and showing us how to use this thing. And that I will say that is like, oh, so satisfying to hear because that's our goal is to like, make a product so good that helps people so much that they're eager to tell. And this is that thing that you were talking about where sometimes people are concerned that like, hey, other people's success could come at my expense, but I don't see that among the sort of Sudowrite author community where these folks are just excited, like a rising tide lifts all boats. And
Hmm.
so I want to get this tool into the hands of others. I want to teach other people how to use it. I want them to see the success that I achieved as an author, in some part as a result of using a tool like this. I think the last one I just want to call out because this actually happened while I was at Nink, but I didn't see it until I logged back online thereafter, which was somebody in the Discord just shows up in the Discord server and they're like, I'm going to read their quote. They say, I just wanted to say I've been using Sudowrite for the past few weeks now. I can't begin to express how much I love it. It rekindled my love for writing and it's so fun. And
Yeah.
that's the perfect testimonial in my opinion because like our goal, that's our actual mission is to allow you to focus on the parts that bring you joy in your process. And if we can do that, if we can make, get rid of the tedium, get rid of the busy work, let you stay in the vibe, that's great.
Yeah, I think, my experience with AI and how I use it, part of it is in my writing process, but also in my research and ideation process. And, now with how the tools have broadened, getting me to find research I could never find on my
Oh yeah.
own, right? Like it can go so deep. And I just put out a whole, probably 20,000 words on the Amazon algorithm and how you know they're looking to change it over time. And I was able to find all of this existing research
Yes.
that Amazon and Google and all the like, and yeah, I had to go read through all those papers, and they're horrible to read through because they're research papers. But like the fact that I could access that data, and you start to see how all the pieces come together. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
there's only about 10 or 12 guys that are working on this stuff,
Yeah.
right? And they're bouncing from two or three companies, and like these are the ideas on how recommendation and ranking is going to work, whether it's Netflix or Hulu or
Yeah.
Amazon, right? um that makes me better at my job. In the
Yes.
end, it's how I take those ideas and present them to the community. um but that process of doing that, um yeah, you're always going to have that. It's a creative process. It's like, wow, this is exciting, it's all this great stuff, and wow, and then it's like, oh my god, I've got so much to go through, this is going to kill
Yeah.
me. Like
Yeah.
um but I just know that I'm putting out better work because of it, right? Like
Yes.
I'm able to be more definitive, and certainly I'm very, very cautious about making sure that I verify my sources.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
But I do think that the value that I can create for an audience has increased exponentially because of these tools. Right now,
Yeah.
how you shift that for fiction, that's what we're
Yeah.
talking about, right?
Yeah, and I would say I want to like offer a clarifying point, which is like to your point that like you as a human, as the author in that process, like you're using it to accelerate things, but you recognize that even some of the hard work is still necessary, even the reading of those papers and you synthesizing that information and you sort of like architecting it,
Mm-hmm.
that's on you. And so while we do, and while part of the value of Sudowrite is that we accelerate things for you, I would never say our goal is to make the creative process easy. We cannot make the creative process easy. There are work is sharpened when you are going through that hard process of struggling and sort of like wrestling with phrasing, or sort of like there in the developmental edit where you're thinking, is this really the direction that this story goes? And so I think that like this is why we do not say that like Sudowrite makes things easy. No, we do want to free you up more of your time. We want you to reallocate some of the tedium
Mm.
into that creative process that may be hard. It may still be hard. Hard work is required to be an author, to be an effective author, that like clicks for an audience as well. And so we can't necessarily make uh, the full thing easy, but we can free you up a bit to focus on the joyful parts.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I kind of align with that quote you read, is like these tools have made things joyful, right?
Yeah.
Now, and I'm more productive. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not finding myself overwhelmed. Like the overwhelmed, that's like I ended up putting this stuff together and putting it out, and it's like it's not my final version that I'd like, but it's like I would rather get it out good
Yes.
and get it into the community. And then because if I waited until when I had time again, it would be January, right? So
Yes.
that's not to say I can't go back and improve things or do it. Like that's just regular creative process and you deciding when you're going to put work into the market. But like it may have taken me, I may have never found that content before without these tools, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's the part where it really sped things up, because frankly, I did not know that Amazon had a full site full of research papers that they've been
Hmm.
producing, right? That there was content out there from as far back as 2016 that specifically talks about how their algorithm works, right?
Yeah.
Now, it's dense content, right? These are data scientists talking to data scientists,
Yes. Yeah, sure.
right? Um,
Not
but
my
you
weekend read, but
no,
yeah.
no, no, but like for me, like from my perspective in the industry, this stuff is interesting to me. Like I
Yeah.
will take the hit for the team. I will read it and I will um because it helps. I want to have that in my head
Yeah.
to to be thinking about like, oh, you know,
It informs so much about
yeah,
like
yeah,
the programming you bring to Author Nation and the direction that, yeah, you take the newsletter. Exactly.
absolutely, absolutely. So let's talk about if somebody's got like 30 minutes a week, they're
Mhm.
thinking about touching the third rail of AI. Um, what would you suggest for them to do? Like, how could they get like maximum impact out of 30 minutes a week?
That's a great question.
That's all
Um,
we have is great questions here.
I know. So I'm going to take in the context of Sudowrite.
Mhm.
If you're jumping straight into Sudowrite and you want
Yeah,
to get
yes,
up and
yeah.
running and see what this could do for you, the first thing I would recommend is experiment with our. We've made this onboarding process as easy as possible. First of all, we have a free trial. The free trial is not time bound. Instead, you get a sort of fixed number of credits. Credits are roughly a sort of like approximation of how much AI you can use,
Mhm.
and so you can start the free trial. Use it when you have time for it, that 30 minutes a week. Use the import novel feature, which uses AI but doesn't use any credit, so that's a gimme. So you bring either an existing work in progress or a completed novel into Sudowrite, and you first of all, this is your first magic moment. You get to see what the AI can do, and the AI can do a whole bunch of stuff. You're going to give it a single .docx file or .doc or something like that, and what Sudowrite's going to do is split that out into separate chapters. It's going to read it all and create a detailed story Bible. And actually, most recently, we have launched something called My Voice, where optionally, during that import, you can just flip a switch if you would like to opt into a private voice model. And so what this
Mm,
does is it allows Sudowrite to read that manuscript that you've given it or work in progress, and it trains a private voice so that once that work is in there, if you want to keep writing in that precise style, you can just select that voice. It may actually be selected by default. But what this means is that we then have two ways for you to continue. Assuming you're at a work in progress place, if you're a pantser, we have something called the write button, and so you can just see what the next 50 to 1500 words could look like. So you just
mm,
click that button and Sudowrite generates a continuation in your style if you've chosen to train that. Otherwise, you can actually work in a more if you're a plotter, you can work from the outline that was created for you. So an outline would have been created based on the read through of your work. You can generate the next chapter of your book in one
mm.
click if you'd like. Now, I think that the reason I emphasize that is that some people, authors have told us, like, look, I love what Sudowrite can do. I'm never going to have it write for me. I'm never going to generate a single word of my prose. And that's a totally there's so much value you can still get out of it, even if you do not want the generated prose. What I will say is like my flow, I very, very rarely use generated prose, but I still generate it because I like to look at it and then reject its suggestion. And sometimes it'll spark some things
Yeah.
for me. And so if that is you, the other thing is there are a whole suite of editing and feedback tools. I think that this is there's a plugin. Again, I'm going to promote my own plugin, but I built something for our community called the Import Report, which once you've brought that book in, you can run a detailed analysis on that entire manuscript and get developmental notes and feedback and like ideas for where you could improve it. We also have a first party tool, meaning the team built it in the more tools menu called feedback, which is like works on 10 to 30,000 words at a time if you just want feedback on a few chapters. So I would say that there's like we've really focused on building like an easy on-ramp to experiment with this tool, and we've tried to give you the sort of budget to do so within that free trial.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's my initial advice because there's a lot more stuff you could do, but then we're out of that 30 minutes by that
Yeah,
point
yeah,
probably.
yeah. We gotta stay to the
Hmm.
parameter. Sure. Awesome. Well, one thing that we really appreciate Sudowrite's support of the show. You're going to be you have a booth on the Mix and Mingle Midway. You're going to be talking there. What do you hope to have people learn from you at the show, or is there any cool stuff that why should they come and talk to you at the booth? Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
big
it's a great question.
tease.
I will say that we have some reveals maybe still planned for the booth, but what I will say
Yeah.
is we have in preparation for Author Nation, we have just launched our iOS and Android app. And so this is a companion app for Sudowrite that allows you to take your writing on the go.
Mm,
It offers tools that are totally unique from the actual web. If you're using Sudowrite on the web, for example, if you're using it on your phone, we have smart dictation tools. We have
oh,
something
wow.
called ramble mode that's really neat if you want to just sort of quickly ramble off a chapter and watch it take shape. So that's the stuff that we will definitely be demoing a lot of mobile devices. So bring your phone to the Sudowrite booth is one thing. Also, we have a few other really cool features that we can demo for you if you show up to the Sudowrite booth. We will be doing some version of office hours, some sort of like one-on-one sessions,
Mhm.
so you can grab time. The whole Sudowrite team is going to be there. There's going to be 10
Yeah, you've
people
got a
from
huge team
Sudowrite.
showing up.
We got a big team, and this was I will tell you just as a testament to Author Nation. We brought the whole team last year, and everybody had a blast. But at the end of it, everybody was cooked. We were like, I'm so tired. And so we made the tactical decision. We were like, that was a lot. We're only going to bring a light team of 4 people, and then we'll make it optional for everybody else. And everybody opted it.
Yeah.
Everybody was like, oh, I want to go back. Yeah, I want to go back. And
Yeah.
so the whole team's going to be out for
Yeah,
it.
I nobody like there was a point Suze and Isabel and I got on the airplane after the show and we were trying to talk to each other and none of us could actually put a sentence together
Yeah.
coherently. Like, but there was this understanding of like, oh, I know where your brain is at. It's okay. That almost was a sentence,
hmm
right? Like, so yeah, it is a lot. I get it. But for you know like you're not the only team that said that. It's like, oh, we're bringing more people back because first off, like we there's a lot of community there. We're
Yeah.
already ahead of ticket sales for last year. So it's going to be a lot. There's going to be over 1,000 people there, and
Yeah.
yeah, so you do need just so you guys can take breaks. Do a little
It's great.
tag team
I'm
in the
I'm
booth.
glad everybody is going to be there ultimately because
Yeah,
yeah, I gives us exactly little time to step away for lunch.
yeah, yeah,
Even though we love being, I said, look, if you're all opting in, everybody's going to do shifts at the booth, and everybody clapped. So so
yeah.
it's great. We love meeting authors in person, and it's not. I will say. The majority of Sudowrite, these are our reclusive engineers. They're all very friendly.
Mhm.
But that's the majority of the team are folks who write and also build or write code and write narrative fiction. And they're excited to all join for it because they don't get. I have the rare privilege of interfacing with authors every single day. They don't get the same, and so this is a nice moment to be able to do that.
No, that's great. That's great. Well, Michael, why don't you tell folks where they can find you, and then we'll kind of wrap this bad boy up.
Sure. So please do go to sudowrite.com. That's SUDOWRITE.com and try Sudowrite for free. Also, I will say your next step should be our Discord server.
Mhm.
And you can join our Discord server at discord.gg/Sudowrite. So discord.gg/Sudowrite will throw you into our server. Like I said, about 15,000 AI friendly, curious authors, forward thinking folks with great ideas. They're eager to help either with Sudowrite questions you have or edits, suggestions. We have a ton of genre specific channels so you can find your tribe. The final thing is that once you're in Sudowrite for that trial, there's a little question mark in the upper right if you need help, if you need to get unstuck. That question mark reveals a whole bunch of cool resources, including our YouTube, including our live class calendar. Like I said, we do free daily live classes. I teach some of those. We have a stable of incredible teachers, about a dozen teachers that rotate through and teach those sessions. So join us for those. There's a lot of ways to find us, and we do hope to see you soon in one of those places.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the show, Michael. And for those of you, November 3rd through the 7th, 2025, we are going to be hanging out together at the Horseshoe Casino at Author Nation. So come see us there and learn more about Sudowrite and take your author career to another level. See
Yeah,
you
thank
later.
you so much for having me, Joe. I appreciate it. And thanks,
Bye.
y'all.